you say maybe a false positive?
Maybe still.
Is Diogo Jota world class? Martinelli. Now, Klopp said called him outstanding after the game and said everyone should be looking at this man. Now, I'll tell you what, if you would ask me right now who I'd sign in the summer, I'd sign Martinelli.
Yeah, I think you'll see some heavy team selections for that final. But he's probably one of the best Premier League comebacks ever. It's also probably one of the most rubbish ways to lose a football match I've ever seen.
Yeah. Hey guys, and welcome back to Crazy About Kickoff. This episode's a review of the Carabao Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Arsenal, and a preview of the Premier League fixtures that are coming this weekend. So, John, we'll start with the Carabao Cup semi-final, and as a neutral sitting there waiting for who you were going to get, what did you make of the game?
The game kind of went how I expected the game to go. Really, I think the first leg performance from Arsenal gave them a lot more confidence than they probably had before the start of the tie.
Would you say maybe a false positive?
Maybe still, but I think they did at the start of the game. They did show that confidence was real and that they were going to try and take the game to Liverpool. Played quite an attacking midfield. They had Odegaard sort of playing a bit deeper, and obviously they had the three main boys behind Lacazette. But I think it was clear that if Liverpool could sort of weather the initial storm of the crowd and the attacks from Arsenal, which they did fairly well, to be fair, I think it just started turning, and I think Liverpool just showed that how clinical they can be and how dangerous a side they are, because even if they also had all the ball and the chances, that Liverpool used the ball when it mattered and they used it better, and the quality showed through, I think, in the end.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we've got to give a shout out to Diogo Jota. I mean, when Liverpool signed him and didn't sign Timo Werner, a lot of people were like, why have they not just signed Werner? Werner looked ready-made for our team. And obviously, Timo Werner struggled since he come to England. And I suppose you never know. If he'd joined Liverpool, it could have been completely different. But at the moment, Michael Edwards and his team deserve a big fat raise, in my opinion, for finding Jota for $5 million up front as well. Just the way he took the first goal, the way he absolutely ripped Tomiyasu to shreds, and then the finish is sort of maybe a bit lucky, maybe not, maybe he's meant it, who knows. But the second goal is absolutely unbelievable. The way he takes that on his chest and chips a goalie. Is Diogo Jota world class?
I don't think he's probably world class right now. I think he's showing that he can perform in a world class team, and that he can carry a lot of the burden, especially with Salah and Mane not playing. I think a lot of the responsibility really was going to fall on Jota to do something. Obviously, Firmino was playing as well, but that's not really his game. And yeah, I think Jota handled it really well. He handled the expectation. He handled the pressure. He was very calm. Played really well. I think he's showing that he's in that conversation of is he starting to become a world class player? Does he maybe need to? Maybe there's a few little gaps in his game, like his finishing yesterday was really good, but I think there's been times where his finishing's not been as clinical as maybe you'd expect it to be from him, from the way he plays. But apart from that, I think he's looking really good, and it looks like a really good signing. And the way he's managed to bed himself into that team so easily as well, and not look out of place, I think is really good, and it is a really good recruitment. Really good recruitment from Michael Edwards and Liverpool in general.
Yeah, I think also we've got to mention one player a couple of players actually who Liverpool didn't actually recruit. We'll start off with the main man who I feel like people will be bored of me talking about him right now, but how can we not after last night's performance? Trent Alexander-Arnold, his 15th Liverpool assist of the season. He's got 18 in total. After that hat-trick of assists he got with England, albeit maybe against San Marino. But to be fair, 12 of his assists of his last 20 have come against big six clubs. I mean, run out of words really to talk about Trent. To be fair.
Yeah. Look, I think there's people who still have questions over maybe certain aspects of his game, and I think there's different people believe that that's justified. Some people don't think it is. I think at the start of the game, I think you could see that Martinelli was prepared to give him a battle, and I think Trent maybe in the first 10, 15 minutes did struggle with that. Maybe he wasn't really expecting it. I don't think Liverpool as a whole maybe were expecting Arsenal to be so on the front foot as they were. But I think as soon as he sort of got to grasp with it and managed to deal with Martinelli, a player who's in really good form as well. He managed to deal with him pretty well throughout the game, and I think he had a really, really good performance, another good performance, another really good assist against a big side, like you said. So, yeah, it's really, really good performance from him. And probably the other man you were alluding to as well, Kelleher, was put in another great performance in the cup for you guys. I think he's a player who's maybe sort of been hiding away a little bit in sort of the under-23s in previous years, but this year he's probably given himself a shout to be one of the better backup keepers in the league, really. Like, there's not much more you can ask for a backup keeper. Penalty saves have been really good, and I think what I was so impressed with was, even though it was a big atmosphere at the Emirates, there was probably a lot of nerves. Arsenal started well. He makes the save from the free kick, and then throughout the game, he played with a lot of confidence, which is, even though he is 23, so he's probably a bit older than maybe some people think. Keepers develop late anyway, so that's nothing against him. And the way he was so willing to come into that sort of sweeper keeper role. There was a few times the balls got played over where Martinelli was trying to get on the end of it, and he'd given up before he got 10 yards because Keller had got it, and then just played really composed football, simple stuff, nothing too flashy, nothing too... It was a really good performance from him as well, I think.
Yeah, I think personally that he will start in the final. But I think as well, if I was Kelleher, I'm thinking like, I'm not going to displace Alisson. So maybe he might look to go elsewhere, but I don't know, I'm not sure. But he is too good to be sitting on Liverpool's bench. That is one thing I'll definitely say. I want to move on to another man who's... This lad still receives quite a bit of criticism from other fan bases, but also the Liverpool fan base is a bit mixed on him as well. Curtis Jones, I thought he was absolutely fantastic last night, and he showed exactly why Liverpool fans, I don't think, should give up on him, because when he does come into the side, he gets like a couple of opportunities. He doesn't get many, do you know what I mean? And then when he does come inside and he puts in performances like that, you know, it's clearly, obviously, Harvey Elliott's getting most of the hype. Big shout out to him. He's back in training, and he Klopp said he's back after the international break. So looking forward to some big things.
Big positive.
Looking forward to some big things from Harvey Elliott, yeah. But Curtis Jones just goes under the radar, and I think many people don't really appreciate what he can do. But I think a man who was unfortunate not to get man of the match last night was Fabinho. For me, it was utterly fantastic. The way he swept up half the Arsenal attacks, and obviously that last-ditch tackle to save Van Dijk's bacon. I mean, I wouldn't swap him personally for any DM in football. I know people say they might want Rodri, they might want like Busquets, Casemiro, but personally, I'd stick with Fabinho every time. You might disagree, fair enough, but I love Fabinho. We will move on to Arsenal, and one player in particular, we've mentioned him a couple of times, which shows how dangerous he was. Martinelli. Now, Klopp called him outstanding after the game, and said everyone should be looking at this man. Now, I'll tell you what, if you would ask me right now who I'd sign in the summer, I'd sign Martinelli. Put it that way.
Yeah, he's a really, really talented player. Like, and I think even though Trent got the better of the battle in the general 90 minutes, and obviously in the game, the fact that he was so willing to have a contest and have a proper battle with the most informed right back in the world. Like, shows the confidence of the kid. Like, he's not afraid of anyone, and he'll take on anyone. And the way that he was getting the ball, and there was sometimes one man on him, there was sometimes two, and every time he always seemed full of confidence, willing to take him on or get the ball away to someone else or create space or anything. It was a really good performance. And to be fair, now you mentioned what Klopp said, it does seem like he'd be a really good fit.
And also, why would you say that? Why would you say that if you weren't like, I don't know, maybe he's not, maybe he is, but maybe there's something underneath it where Klopp's like basically hinting, I want him. Oh, I'd love it. Yeah. But yeah, we'll move on a bit. The final, obviously, it's me v you, it's Chelsea v Liverpool. Promises to be certainly an interesting battle, no matter who plays in goal for the Reds and who's available for Chelsea. Sort of, I've seen a picture before on Twitter. I think it was Reece James put up, and it was him and Chilwell, and I said, "Oh, the fullbacks are coming back or something along." But obviously, I wonder if they'll both be fit in time for the final.
I think
if you've got them back, it's a big boost for you, isn't it? Like Liverpool have got their own injuries as well, so it's like well done. Like Thiago, say, but he is expected to be back, I think, as well. Salah and Mane are back, so it makes for a very interesting spectacle.
Yeah, I think I still think Chilwell's season's really pretty much done. If he can maybe get a few games in at the end of the season, that'd be brilliant. But I think it's one of those, like, when you play a wing-back position, which is so physically demanding, in a system that's so physically demanding, and you have an injury like he had, the last thing you want to do, like, is rush them back. Like, you've seen how Van Dijk's had the knee injury, and he withdrew himself from selection for the Euros, didn't he? Really, because he wanted to get, and you could say, still looks a little bit like off the pace, just to hit for his standards, really, not necessarily in the general like performance of him as a centre half. But yeah, I think James is the one where, if we can get him back, I think if we can get him back for the final, that would be brilliant. They said 6 to 8 weeks. It's been about 4 now, and and it's about 4 or 5 weeks till the final. So, but I think he's had really good progress in his recovery. I think he's recovered from it quite well, according to what's being said. But yeah, another one, Trevor Chalobah was back in full team training as well, which is a big boost, because I think he's part of our best back three. But it's just it will be a good game, the final. I think both games this season have had the special moments. They've had everything you'd want in a good game: red cards, penalties, cracking goals, good team play, like good physical contests. But yeah, it was interesting when you were saying about Curtis Jones, actually. I think that was one of the things that Klopp got so bang on yesterday, was his selection in midfield, because you looked at the Liverpool team and you thought, the keeper's sound, the back four's obviously sound, the attack, obviously Kay Gordon started. Granted, he had a quiet game, but he still made an all right impression, I think. And
he still got into like the right kinds of positions and stuff. And the finishing the thing about Gordon is the finishing will come. You sort of learn the finishing at a later age, but while he's got that movement at the age of 17, and then like attacking instincts, he's gonna be something big, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And then you look to the midfield, and Fabinho, obviously we talked about how good a game he had, but I think getting the sort of, even though Henderson might not be the quickest footballer, he's got a fuel tank. That's what he's got. He's got a tank on him. And Curtis Jones, he's a slightly more, maybe what he can play a bit wider, so he's got a bit of more pace, bit of an acceleration about him, just that wide players tend to have. And when he played in that midfield, I thought it was the perfect way to stop Arsenal being able to play and create good attacks. Like, their best attacks came on the break or on the counter, really. But any time that they tried to build up, that midfield three was very quick to shut down a lot of good chances. So yeah, it was really good. I think that's a really good positive you've got to give to Klopp, and a lot of praise, because he's picked that midfield for a specific reason. I think it worked perfectly. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see who both managers pick for the final, really, because I think for us, maybe more than you, there's you're not going to get really a better chance of winning a trophy this season. I think we've both kind of accepted the Premier League titles out. Well, it's out of our club's hands, and it's probably out of the question, really.
Probably, yeah.
The FA Cup obviously is still a thing, but it's always, I think, the FA Cup, you end up playing more tougher teams than in the Carabao Cup just because of how many more games you play. And the Champions League is another one. Obviously, I think Liverpool obviously looked really good in it. We're the defending champions. Maybe that's another potential one, but once again, you're going to have to beat some quality teams.
You're going to have to be at your very, very best, yeah.
Exactly, and I don't think right now. I think trying to get another trophy under the belt for both these managers, maybe after would be the right thing to do. I'd say so. I think both managers might go for it fairly heavily. I think you'll see some heavy team selections for that final.
Yeah, I think obviously like it's an interesting tactical battle, Klopp v Tuchel anyway. But then like with the form of some, it depends obviously if they're still in the same kind of form in a month's time, and if say Elliott kicks on from his injury at the pace he was at the start of the season, it's an interesting like dilemma who you pick, and sort of creates like an interesting tactical battle in a sense as well. But we'll move on and put it this way: I hope that Chelsea are still in the run of form they're in right now, because what happened, John? What happened in the 1-1 draw at Brighton?
A lot of the same things that have happened in the last 3 weeks. I will say that Chelsea have had 7 games in 21 days, which is a heavy amount of games to have to play, and we've not had a lot of breaks. And I think when you're in this sort of form, you sometimes need a week where you're not playing, or you need a bit of time, and because otherwise you can't really fix things, you can't really think things through. You sort of just have to almost grind your way through them and hope. Which we've got Spurs, we've got a break for the Club World Cup. It's in the UAE, which I think is probably the right time for it for us. I think we need something like that where we can almost like leave everything else behind for a week or so and refocus. But I don't know. It's a tough one. I think we talked about it a lot about the Lukaku situation and the problems that are there. And I think part of it is either Tuchel doesn't still know if he had to pick his best 11 with everyone fit, who he'd pick. Or I also think that he's just not had the ability to do it for so long now that he's kind of just having to rotate and put players in for the sake of rotation, because we can't afford for Mason Mount to get injured now, because then if Kante gets another knock, or if Thiago Silva or Rudiger get a big injury, like it's looking a lot more precarious. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But Brighton, once again, like we've praised them a lot. They're a good side. Graham Potter's a good manager. He's got them playing good football, and I think they were credit really. I think for the point. I think we had some good chances. We didn't have a lot of great chances. I think Kepa, to his credit, since he's come in, has played pretty well. He's not made any clangers really yet.
And also, when you come into like an underperforming team, it's like, especially as a goalkeeper, if that team's already sort of shipping goals, like coming in as the backup goalie who's maybe not rated anyway, you know what I mean? Probably doesn't help him, definitely.
No,
I'm not saying any goal's been his fault, but it certainly definitely doesn't help his like mentality, but B, also like the defense's mentality. Because at least like if you've got Mendy behind you, say for Liverpool, if you've got Alisson behind you, I suppose Kelleher's just as good though. So you use like, say United, then again, they've got 2 quite good goalies. Say like Man City, say their defence, if they had Stefan in goal, probably wouldn't be as confident as if they had obviously Edson in goal.
No,
you know what
not
I mean?
at all. But to Kepa's credit, like when you watch him in the games, he doesn't almost look like the boy we signed, like the more shy, timid. He looks like he's willing now to proper have a go at players, and I think that's because maybe the fact he's come into a Chelsea side that's slightly underperforming is helping him, because now people are making mistakes or we're not playing as well. There's not as much pressure really on him, because it's like I can bollock these people because I'm actually playing better than they are. Whereas if you come into a side that's in the insane form, you can't fault anyone. So you can't really. You just have to like get on with it yourself. But he's looking good, and I'm glad he's looking better and getting on there, because I did feel a bit sorry for him at certain points, because I think I'm at fault, just like criticism and just like a lot of negative energy going his way. But we'll have to see. But it's another one like the Kelleher-Alisson situation where Kepa's been good for us in the League Cup. He's also got a really good penalty record. But I still would probably start Mendy. And that's just because you look at it and the way I see it is, as a Liverpool fan, if you looked at our lineup, would you rather see Mendy or Kepa in goal? And you'd probably rather see Kepa, just as how I'd rather see Kelleher.
But I, as a Liverpool fan, though, I would trust Kelleher to keep a clean sheet. I would, honestly.
It's not that I wouldn't trust Kepa to keep a clean sheet. I just don't think we will. And I think that chance goes even more down if Mendy's not in goal. But
yeah, I see what you're saying. Right, we'll move on to your opponent at the weekend, Tottenham, and the best Premier League comeback of all time. Certainly, by as a fact, the latest. 97th minute. What was it? They were 2-1 down in the 95th minute, and somehow won. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's almost something that you can't believe. You'd think. I don't know. It is probably one of the best Premier League comebacks ever. It's also probably one of the most rubbish ways to lose a football match I've ever seen. 2-1 down in the 2-1 up. In the 95th minute, you've got the ball after Century's just given Bergwijn a bright talking to for diving. I'll tell you what, there's not a man who's going to feel more embarrassed after that game than Century is, because it's just it's pathetic attempt. Like, you shouldn't be drawing the game. The fact that the fact they lost it is embarrassing, man. Like, and I think it shows a lot about Leicester this season. I think they've had a lot of praise, and a lot of their players have had a lot of praise, and a lot of it's been fair, because they have sort of cemented themselves into a position which they kind of want to be at. But this season there is a bit of a fragility to them, and there's just something that they're missing. And I don't know whether it's a slightly better centre back. Obviously, they've had their injuries. Obviously, it's good to see James Justin get back, because I thought he was a cracking player for them when he was playing. But look, credit to Tottenham, credit to any team that does that, because it shows a lot of nads. It shows a lot of courage, which you haven't seen from a Tottenham side probably since Pochettino. So
I think it's like a more of a Conte thing than a Tottenham thing myself. I think obviously, like, Conte's come in and he's actually been pretty, like, obviously, you know, we both knew how good Conte was, but he's come in and he sort of seems to have picked the mentality up. And the Spurs mentality, you know, what mentality really? Come on, lads, it's Spurs, know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he sort of come in and picked that mentality up and been like, right, come on, boys, get a grip. Stop being shit.
Yeah, it's one of them. It's one of them where it's like one of the mentalities was going to have to give. Either Conte was gonna give up, or Spurs were going to give up. And I think it shows how much of a stubborn bastard Conte is, really, because he's saying to an entire club, an entire fan base, no, this isn't what we are. We're not like these bottle jobs anymore. We're a team that makes teams bottle it against us, or we're a team where neutrals go. They've performed well. They've put a good shift in. They've fought. They've done themselves a service. So yeah, credit to Conte. Obviously, I'd rather it wasn't. I couldn't give him the credit, but I have to, because of how good a manager he's been. So
yeah, right. We'll move on again to them. Tottenham. We should talk about Tottenham. So we'll move on to their top four rivals, Manchester United. And while it wasn't an impressive performance against Brentford, they got the job done thanks to some youth.
Yeah, a game of two halves, I think, is the perfect cliche for that, really. I think the first half, if you told someone that one of those teams had the best player in the world in, and a multi-million-pound defence, and one was a team full of sort of the Danish national team and Ivan Toney, you'd have thought it was the other way around, right? You'd have thought, but no, look, David De Gea again, another amazing performance. We said before we were recording that he's having another season where he's just dragging this United side through a lot of poor performances, and credit in the second half as well to United, because I think they sort of showed a good mentality there as well. Of look, the first half where you just got to write it off. When you play like that at half time, you almost have to write it off and go, look, we somehow made it through 0-0. Let's now play like it's the whole game is in this last second half. And that's what they did. So credit to them.
Yeah, I think obviously the positives definitely is that Anthony Elanga, Greenwood and Rashford scoring. Obviously, Rashford specifically has been it's been poor so far this season, really, hasn't he? Like, he hasn't really been at the levels he's shown in the past. He's shown some insane levels in the past. He's had defences literally shitting themselves. But this season, you look at Rashford and you're like, he doesn't look like the same player, but the goal probably give him a lot of hope. Well, not hopefully as a Liverpool fan, but hopefully for he's a likeable guy, do you know what I mean? So hopefully he can pick up and where he left off kind of thing. But yeah, Thomas Frank after the game described United as lucky and said that they destroyed them and Brentford should have put the game to bed. I mean, he's not wrong. They had, in the first half specifically, they had 8 shots, 4 on target, and they had 18 shots overall in the whole game. Like, that was more than United had 13, I think, in the whole game. Like, on another day, they win that match, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, look, it probably is. I can see where the frustration is, because you would be so frustrated if your team played as well as they did in the first half and then you lose the game somehow 3-1 in the second. You'd be annoyed because I think he obviously had a couple of little jabs at United and caught about how much money their team costs and etc. But I think that's more of a frustration for his own players, because he's probably on the sideline going, how are you not putting some of these to bed? How, there's nothing more as a manager you can do than if your team's creating that many chances and not scoring. You're just helpless at that point. And I think that's just probably where the frustration was, because it's another chance. Yeah. It was another chance for Brentford to get a good result against a good side, and they didn't really do it. But yeah, he's just one of them where I think the manager's just been frustrating evening, and he's sort of lost his media training in the back somewhere, and he's thought I'd come and have a little dig.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that Klopp isn't partial to that. So we'll move on to previewing the games this weekend, and I mean, we'll go on to Man United, because we talked about their game's probably maybe the most interesting this weekend. They've got West Ham, the Jesse Lingard derby, maybe.
The Chicharito derby, is it?
Chicharito derby, yeah. I suppose. Carlos Tevez derby, maybe.
Oof, heck.
But yeah, it promises to be a good game. Jarrod Bowen in amazing form, and if you're a United's defence, I think you're quite scared of Jarrod Bowen. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a game that promises a lot, really.
David Moyes' return. It's the David Moyes derby, surely.
Yeah, maybe that's what you've got to go with, really. I think, and look, he would love nothing more. Surely he would love nothing more than to be able to win that game.
Yeah, but personally, I think it's got 1-1 draw written all over it myself.
I think there's a lot of possible outcomes for this game. To be honest, I think you look at. I think I could see West Ham getting a couple. I could see United getting a couple, because I think West Ham in the last few weeks, but it's sort of been a growing thing. They aren't looking as solid at the back as they were earlier in the season. Obviously, that's because Zuma and Ogbonna, who are the starting centre half pairing, are both injured. But yeah, I think it could offer a lot. I don't know whether maybe Jesse Lingard comes off and scores a goal. Could be a bit of a drama one. Or does Declan Rice show United why they should try and pick him up in the summer? There's a lot of narratives going on, really, isn't there?
Well, Lingard did score the winner in the 90th minute, didn't he, at the London Stadium?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll move on. So Brentford play Wolves. That should be. I think that'll be an alright game, to be fair. Wolves don't really tend to concede. They don't really tend to score that many. Brentford, again. So I think that's got 1-1. I think actually West Ham United, I'm going to go 2-1, but I don't know who for. One of them will win 2-1, but I don't know who.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
Brentford Wolves, I'm going to go 1-1. And then the other 3 o'clock game, you've got Leeds v Newcastle. Now, this is a huge game for Newcastle, not just because they're in danger at the bottom, but their relegation rivals, Watford, play both Norwich and Burnley. Now, either way, if Norwich and Burnley win them games, it's trouble for Newcastle. Or if Watford pick up maximum points, it's also big trouble. So Newcastle have to win. They have to win.
Yeah.
And it's away at Leeds. It's a tough game, but they're the games you need to be winning if you're going to stay up in this division.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're making mad moves at the minute, looking at Diego Carlos and maybe Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, I think I saw they had a bid for I'll murder the pronunciation, but the Monaco centre half, Brad Schiller, I think his name is.
Yeah, I know you're on about.
And Monaco said that basically he wasn't enough, and Newcastle said okay, and I think they'll maybe come back in with another bid.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's sort of almost those games with Watford and Norwich, which is on tonight, and then the Burnley game. It is almost a lose-lose. I think if you're Newcastle, you're begging for 2 draws. Really, you're begging for 2 draws, and I think it's a big one as well, because if Leeds beat Newcastle, it's not just it's a big game for Leeds, because if they beat Newcastle, that is a massive step to pretty much like giving themselves a lot of breathing space to stay in the division this year in a very difficult season for them with the injuries and the players they've had to use. But yeah, no, it promises to be an interesting game, because it's one where neither team wants to lose, but also a point's not really doing anyone any favours.
No, for any of them. So go on, what's your predictions for Leeds v Newcastle?
I think that will be 2-1 Leeds. I just think Leeds just play better football.
I'm going to go with a surprise. I'm going to go 2-1 to Newcastle. Okay, then Norwich v Watford. I think Watford.
Yeah, Emmanuel Dennis getting a couple, surely.
I'm going to go 2-0.
Yeah. I have to say, I want to give Dean Smith a lot of credit, because the fact Norwich staying up is a possibility. Is a really good from him, and I think he's gotten the players maybe believing that they actually have a chance, which is rare for a Norwich side in the Premier League. So credit to him. But yeah, I think Watford, once again, they both teams really can't afford to lose it if they want to stay safe. So I think Watford maybe 2-0. 2-0 to Watford. Dennis gets one.
Yeah,
maybe.
Okay, Burnley Arsenal. Arsenal win surely.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Burnley, no Chris Wood now.
3-0. 3-0 I've gone for.
Yeah, no Chris Wood. Burnley they look like a club defeated, really, don't they? They look like a club defeated. So yeah, I'd probably go maybe 3-1. I feel like Burnley maybe get a goal and people think it's all right. And then
Okay. And we'll move on to Arsenal's Carabao Cup opponents, Liverpool away at Crystal Palace. The live game, 2:00.
This will be your last game without the AFCON boys, will it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think, look, it's a tough game, especially the way Palace are playing. But I think in the reverse fixture, you dealt with them fairly comfortably, didn't you? Really. Yeah. So I'd probably go 3-1 Liverpool. But
yeah, I was thinking 2-0 myself.
Yeah, I think something like that. But the Palace are a really exciting team, really. When the thought of seeing Gallagher, Elise, and Eze all playing together is a beautiful thing, isn't it? And then you bring Zaha back into that sort of mixture as well. It's a tasty little team that Vieira's built, to be fair.
Definitely. We'll go with Liverpool's arch rivals now. Maybe not arch rivals, but rivals. Everton. 12:30 kick-off, Aston Villa. Duncan Ferguson versus Steven Gerrard.
Big Dunk's got a good record as interim manager for Everton, to be fair. He did us over last time, 3-1.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like Villa are on an upward trajectory under Gerrard at the moment. So I'd probably say maybe 2-1 Villa. Maybe Coutinho gets a cheeky goal or something. That'd be. I'm sure he'd love that.
Yeah, I would personally love that.
Yeah.
We'll go with the last of the Saturday games. Southampton v Man City. Now, Pep's come out and done his usual. He's a great manager, did a great team routine, which normally means the other team's getting spanked about 6-0.
Yeah, it does tend to happen. I think the one of the few times he said it about a Chelsea team, I think, is when they beat us 6-0 the game. So there is a common trend. Yeah, I think it's one of them, a foregone conclusion, really. To be fair, Southampton are one of those teams where they sometimes do it. It's a bit weird, and normally it's a really amazing goal from someone. And look, if Armando Broja could step up to the mark and maybe keep this
Get a
title
1-1
race
or something,
just alive enough to give at least someone else a bit of hope, even if it's not Chelsea, then I'll take that. But I think I don't think so.
3-0 City. I've wrote down on my piece of paper. Like,
yeah, 3-0 City. Yeah,
and then we'll go with Leicester Brighton.
Interesting.
It's a good clash,
yeah, because Leicester are almost a team that Brighton want to be or trying to get to, aren't they?
Yeah, I suppose.
But then arguably Brighton are better than them at the moment, which is quite a weird dynamic to it, really. I think if Brighton play as well as they did against us, they could win the game, especially the way Leicester were against Spurs. So maybe 2-1 Brighton or 1-0 Brighton.
I could go with that. I think as you say, Leicester could also quite easily win it. But I think maybe Brighton do pull off a mad one. And lastly, you mentioned you, so we'll go with Chelsea Tottenham.
This is another one where I think people aren't realizing how we can't afford to lose this game.
No,
because with the games in hand, Spurs have got. If they won them all, they'd go above us.
Oh,
and we are getting to the
they
point.
Won't. It's Spurs. They won't. Don't worry.
Yeah, but this is the point now. It's not just Spurs. It's Conte. But look, we've played Spurs this season, and we've dealt with them comfortably, and we just have to play like that again. We just have to be confident. We have to just assert a bit of dominance on the game, and hope VAR works as well as it did in the second leg, really. And I think we'll be fine. I think maybe 2-1.
I'm going 2-0 draw.
2-2 draw.
You've been a bit weak lately, I think. I can see Kane. See Kane maybe doing Rudiger or something and burying one or something.
Yeah, well, he had him a few times in the second leg. They just couldn't do. But yeah, that's fair enough. I think it'll be a tougher game than in the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, probably will be.
But we'll have to see.
Then lastly, the second game for Watford is Burnley away. What do you see that going?
I think a lot of it might depend on how the games go before then, right? If Burnley gets spanked by Arsenal and Watford beat Norwich, maybe you think Watford probably go and win that game. But if Norwich give Watford a bit of trouble, Burnley have a good performance, even if maybe they don't win. I could see a draw on that, maybe 1-1, something like that, 0-0, maybe even.
Yeah,
it's got. I think it's one of them, to be honest.
I can personally see only a Watford win. I just don't think that they're better, personally, but we'll see. But I think Watford. Hopefully, Emmanuel Dennis scores a hat trick in both games for my fantasy team. But we'll see. I think a lot of people as well, like me, have captained Emmanuel Dennis because he's got 2 games, but. I mean, it turned out to be an absolute disaster class last week because he had 2 games last week and had done it. So, we'll see. Right, guys, thanks for joining us. That's the end of this episode. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at crazy_kickoff.
And follow us on Instagram at crazykickoff.
See you next time.